Heel pain, you've got it. I'm gonna teach you how to fix it. I'm John, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I specialize in the foot and ankle, specifically for hikers, backpackers, and trail runners. People who love spending time on the trail, like myself. I love spending time in nature, I love spending time on the trail, and I love helping other people do the same. So today I'm gonna talk all about Achilles tendonitis or tendinopathy, that heel pain that you get after runs, exercises, first thing in the morning. I'm gonna teach you why it happens, how to start getting rid of it so that you can start getting back out on the trail, getting back to your runs, getting back to your hikes without pain. So what is Achilles tendonitis? Again, more accurately, tendinopathy. A tendinopathy is basically just where the tendon, where the muscle turns into tendon and then attaches into the bone, gets really, really irritated and is having a hard time finishing the healing process. So the Achilles tendon is where the big muscles of the calf, so the gastroc and the soleus muscles, they come together to form the Achilles tendon and they attach here into the back of the heel. When those muscles contract, they press the front of the foot down, which obviously is essential for everything like walking and hiking and running. And when that Achilles tendon is irritated, it makes those activities really painful. The reason why this happens is at some point there is an amount of activity that is too much for your Achilles to handle, right? Maybe you went on too long of a run, maybe you went on too big of a hike, maybe you climbed too high of a mountain, and that creates what's called inflammation. So inflammation is the first step in the healing process. That's where the body starts to clean up damaged tissue. When you've overloaded a tendon, usually there are small tears, small irritants in the tissue, and that's totally normal. That's part of the process of making that tissue stronger. But the problem is, if that healing process can't go all the way through and make that tendon stronger, you're just gonna keep having issues. So you have this big hike, you have this big run, and it irritates that Achilles tendon. What do? You rest. You take a break. You take a week off. You take 2 weeks off. And then it's feeling okay, it's not too bad, so you go back out, you go out again, you go on a big run, you go on a big hike, and it's painful again. The common pattern that you'll see is stiffness and irritation in the morning at the heel and in the Achilles tendon, pain initially with activity, so when you first get out on a run or on a hike, but then that pain is gonna start to go away. It's gonna start to feel a little bit better once the muscles and tendons start to warm up, but after a while, once you're done with that activity, bam, pain comes right back, and then it's extra stiff the next day. The reason why this is happening is that the load or the activity, the exercises on the Achilles are not enough to stimulate the change that it needs to go through the healing process. And every time you go back to your activity, you're overloading it again. So we go between this flip-flop of overloading the tendon and underloading the tendon when we're resting, overloading the tendon and underloading the tendon when we're resting. And we never build a bridge between the two so that it can go through that healing process and get out of pain. So in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to start that process. I'm gonna show you exercises, what you can do to get that Achilles tendon starting to heal, get it feeling better. And if you follow through on these exercises, if you follow through on the rest of this video, your Achilles and heel is gonna start feeling better and you're gonna be able to get back out into the woods, get back on the trail the way that you want. Before we get to the exercises, there's a couple more things that I want to go through so you have a better understanding of what Achilles tendinopathy is, what things contribute to it, and what we need to fix in order to improve it. So there's a lot of different underlying factors that lead to Achilles tendinopathy, the main one being that overloading that I talked about earlier, doing too much too soon without the appropriate amount of strength. Other things that lead to that Achilles tendinopathy though are weakness in the muscles of the foot itself, the intrinsic muscles of the foot. If the foot isn't strong, then that means there's going to be more load, more work that has to be done by the calf and Achilles. So we're just increasing the amount of work having to be done here, which is more likely to create an overload. Limitations in the ankle joint and the ankle mobility, the ability of the knee to go forward over the toes or the toes to come up towards the shin, is also a really strong predictor of developing Achilles tendinopathy, as well as post-tib tendinopathy and plantar fascia pain, but those are different videos. So these are different underlying factors that can contribute to that Achilles pain and are really important for us to fix and to address while we're building up that Achilles strength. One other thing that usually comes along with Achilles tendinopathy and Achilles pain is weakness in the hamstring. So we got to look higher up the chain. We got to look at the hamstrings. We have to look at the hips, because again, if those other big muscles aren't doing their job or aren't as strong as they should be, that puts more load, more work on the calf, and you're more likely to experience that Achilles pain. Now, there's a couple other things. I want to talk about the difference between insertional and mid-substance Achilles pain. Insertional is where that tendon attaches to the heel. That's where you're gonna be getting a lot of pain and sensitivity at the heel, like on the bone itself. That's where the tendon attaches into the heel. When we're doing exercises for that specifically, it's important that we don't overstretch the tendon, because when we overstretch the tendon, it creates too much compression where it's attached to the heel and it can create more symptoms. The other one, mid-substance Achilles tendinopathy, is where you're gonna get more stiffness, pain, and sensitivity higher above the heel, kind of where that tendon is thick and rubber bandy, right? With that kind of Achilles tendinopathy, it's actually really important to have a lot of stretch when we're doing exercises so that we can get a lot of good stimulus into the whole tendon itself. The other thing that's incredibly important to understand is intensity and volume, total load and progression of exercises when we're dealing with Achilles tendinopathy. I talked about earlier building that bridge from not doing enough to doing too much, and understanding how to progress through that is incredibly important, and I'll touch on that while we're going through the exercises. So next step, we're going to go through the exercises. I'm going to teach you the progressions of how to start working on this Achilles tendinopathy and getting that heel feeling better. All right, it's time to go through the exercises that are going to help you get rid of that heel pain, help to rebuild that Achilles tendon, get it strong so that you can get back on the trail without pain. The first thing that we're going to do is talk through the progression of calf raises that are going to be the core of our rehab program. It's so important to rebuild the strength and capacity of the calf and Achilles in order to get back to those activities that you want to do. So I'm going to take you through a general progression of both the exercises as well as sets and reps that I found to be really helpful for most people. Now again, this is pretty individualized. You have to keep good notes as to what's feeling good, what might be too much, and what might be too little, what might not be enough. So we want to start with pretty easy exercises, something like a half kneeling calf raise or a seated calf raise, so we don't have a lot of load on the Achilles tendon and we can do lots of reps. Again, you can do this seated. Imagine I'm sitting in a chair, or you can do it one leg at a time in a half kneeling position like this. I'm just going to lift up and down. I do not have a lot of weight on my leg with this. I can do a lot of repetitions, get a lot of stimulus into that Achilles tendon without a lot of issue, and with really low likelihood of creating symptoms. Again, you can do this single leg in a half kneeling position like this, or seated in a chair or on a bench. The goal here is to get roughly 30 repetitions, and you're aiming for 3 times a day. A good goal for when you're dealing with Achilles tendinopathy is to work your way up to about 90 repetitions of each progression before you move on to the next one. And then again, try to build up to those 90 repetitions. So we're gonna start with seated or half kneeling calf raise. The next one is we're gonna build towards normal standing calf raises. So we're gonna be standing, going up and down. I'm keeping my socks on today because it's freezing, so I apologize. We're gonna do normal standing calf raises. You can do hands on a wall or on a chair, something to assist you with balance. Again, we're starting at wherever you can, maybe 3 sets of 8, maybe 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12. We're gonna build up towards that 3 sets of 20 to 25 to 30 before we move on to the next progression. This is our normal standard calf raises. The next thing that we're gonna do is move on to a semi single leg eccentric exercise, okay? So the muscles in the calves, the Achilles tendon, it can handle a lot more going down than it can going up. So what we want to do is, before we transition to single leg calf raises, we want to do an in-between. I'm going to show you facing this way. We're going to go up on 2 legs. We're going to shift our weight to one side and then come down. If you're dealing with Achilles tendon pain on one side, you're just gonna do this to that side. So this would be on my left side. If you're dealing with it on both sides, then you can alternate. I'm gonna come up, shift to the right, down, up, shift to the left, down. We're just trying to get a little bit more than 50% of our body weight on one side, the side that is causing the issues. Again, once you can build up to those 3 sets of 25 to 30 repetitions with that progression, you can move on to single leg calf raises. Now, I don't have anything to hold on to, so don't make fun of me if I fall over. So we're standing, single leg, up and down. That's going better than I thought. Again, progressing towards that 20 to 25 to 30 repetitions, 3 sets. What I mean when I say appropriate progression with that is you can't have a huge increase in symptoms when you're doing these exercises. So if you're doing 3 sets of 15 repetitions with a double leg calf raise, and you're not getting any soreness from that at all, and everything's feeling totally fine, you can probably add in a couple extra reps. If you're getting a little extra soreness the next morning, that's okay, as long as it's not impacting activity outside of that. Once it starts to impact activity throughout the day and you're getting a lot of stiffness and soreness the next morning, you're probably doing a little bit too much and you need to back off. So that is our progression with the calf raises. That is the bread and butter with Achilles tendinopathy. That is the key in developing or helping that Achilles tendon to heal, go through that healing process and develop more strength. Now, there's a whole lot of other things that go into treating Achilles tendinopathies and making sure that issues don't come back. I'm gonna go through a couple of those things. I talked about earlier how ankle mobility and foot strength is also really important and key in dealing with Achilles pain. So I'm gonna show you a couple of different exercises for that. This is one of my favorite exercises for improving ankle mobility. I'm gonna show you two different versions. This one is the half kneeling version. You can push your knee forward, get a lot of your body weight forward on the foot, trying to keep your heel down, and you're trying to drive your knee towards your pinky toe. So you don't want your knee to dive in towards your big toe. You want to drive it towards the pinky toe, pushing forward. You should feel a stretch in the front of your ankle and maybe a little bit in the Achilles and calf, and then come back out of it. You want to hold it for about 10 seconds at a time, 10-ish repetitions, and you're trying to get those in every day if you can. The other version is a standing version where I have 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. Now I'm stretching the back foot instead of the front foot. I'm going to take my knee, I'm going to drive it down towards the floor, so my whole body weight is pushing down on that ankle. I'm again keeping my heel down, and this allows me to get a little bit more body weight into the stretch. It's a little bit more advanced than the other one. The next exercise is a strengthening exercise for the intrinsic muscles of the foot. I'll try to put an example of this without the sock on because you'll be able to see it a little bit better, but I'm going to show you a short foot. What a short foot is where you're drawing the front of your foot back towards the heel, and it creates a lift in the arch. So I'm going to squeeze those muscles in my foot, lift the arch, hold, and then relax, squeeze, lift, hold, and relax. Once I get that down really well, I can create that squeeze, create that short foot, and then put weight onto my foot, and that is loading those muscles in the arch, and then I can come off of it. Again, really important to build up the strength of the intrinsic muscles of the foot to help support that Achilles and support the calf muscles. The other thing that I want to add in here is the importance of elevation or depth when we're doing calf raises. When we're dealing with insertional Achilles tendinopathy, so that's pain here at the heel, it's not super important to have a lot of stretch. You can get away without doing the stretch. It's not going to hurt most of the time if you do have a little bit of stretch, but when you're dealing with mid-substance Achilles tendinopathy, so Achilles pain that's higher up here, maybe even higher up into the calf, it's really important to add in stretch, so to add in a little bit of a deficit. So when you're doing your calf raises, before you progress from double leg to single leg, you want to progress from double leg on the floor to double leg with a stretch. So something that elevates the front of the foot and allows you to get a bigger range of motion. You're going to find this to be a lot harder. You're going to have to back off of the reps again and build back up. There are other things that go into dealing with Achilles tendinopathy. Like I said, building up hamstring strength, building up glute strength, building up plyometric ability, so the bounciness of the Achilles, those all go into dealing with Achilles tendinopathy and helping it to resolve and getting you back to activity. So making sure that you have a well-rounded program is really, really important. Again, if you're having a hard time with this, please let me know and I can help you out. So we've come to the end. We've gotten through the exercises. You understand what's going on with Achilles tendinopathy now. A couple of things to keep in mind. The most important thing when you're dealing with Achilles tendinopathy is understanding total volume, total load, and intensity of exercise so that you can start in a place that's appropriate for you and progress all the way up to getting back to the activities that you want to do. Getting back on the trail, hiking, backpacking, trail running without that constant heel pain. Understanding that progression from high volume and low intensity exercises to gradually building up the intensity of the exercises and increasing the load on the tendon is incredibly important. And it's really tricky to get it down sometimes. So if you need more help, please reach out. Leave a comment below. Reach out to me on my Instagram. I'll put the link in the comment section below, or in the caption below. So let me help you get back on the trail. Remember that this takes time. Achilles tendinopathies take a long time to heal. Be consistent. Keep a journal. Make sure that you are consistent with your exercises and you are consistently progressing without big flare-ups. That is the most important thing. If you're dealing with other issues like ankle instability or ankle pain, post-tib tendinopathy or plantar fascia pain, go ahead and check out some of my other videos. I hope this was helpful.